WillNisley.com. Will Nisley.
We're grateful to have you watching CNN 10 on this last Friday in February. I'm Carl Azuz of the CNN Center. There's been a change in U.S. government rules regarding gender and bathroom use in public schools. We first reported on this last May. That's when the Obama administration gave a controversial instruction to schools regarding students who are transgender, people who identify as a gender that's different than their biological sex at birth. A recent university estimate suggests around 0.5% of Americans are transgender, though the exact percentage isn't known. The Obama administration recommended that U.S. public schools allow transgender students to use the bathrooms or locker rooms that correspond with their gender identity. The government said this would protect transgender students from discrimination, and it threatened schools with a loss of federal funding if they didn't follow the rules. But more than 20 states sued the government, saying it was trying to illegally rewrite existing law and force radical changes on schools. The directive is currently tied up in court. The guidelines were not a law passed by Congress, so they were subject to being reversed by any succeeding presidential administration. And this week, they were. The Trump administration says policies on this issue should be in the hands of Congress, state legislatures, or local governments.
I've made this clear, and the president's made it clear throughout the campaign, that he's a firm believer in states' rights and that certain issues like this are not best dealt with at the federal level.
House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi wrote in a statement, quote, "This is not a state issue. This is an issue of equality for all, and that transgender students have the same right to a safe environment at school and in their community as everyone else." Supporters of the new guidelines called them a victory for parents, students, and privacy. And the Trump administration says it remains committed to protecting all students from discrimination and bullying.
10-second trivia. Which of these nations gained its independence most recently? Afghanistan, South Korea, Ethiopia, or Paraguay? South Korea gained its independence from Japan in 1945, making it the most recently independent nation of these options.
And a new study has projected that South Korea will be the country where people will live the longest in the decades ahead. This was published this week in the medical journal The Lancet. It looked at life expectancy for 35 industrialized nations. It took into account child mortality rates, obesity rates, healthcare, diets, cultural lifestyles. Currently, the World Health Organization says the global life expectancy at birth is just over 71 years. The Lancet study expects that to increase by the year 2030, with South Korea leading the way. Its projected life expectancy by 2030, almost 91 years for women and 84 years for men. The researchers say unhealthier lifestyles among men, which may include smoking or drinking alcohol, are reasons why they don't tend to live as long. But scientists also say the gap between the sexes is shrinking. Other countries in the top 5 for projected women's life expectancy are Spain, Portugal, Slovenia, and Switzerland. For men, Switzerland, Netherlands, Australia, and Denmark. For the U.S., predicted life expectancy for men would be 79.5 by 2030, and for women, more than 83 years. Since the late 1960s, there's been an international treaty that establishes law in space. What? The US, the UK, and Russia agreed that space exploration should benefit everyone, that space should be free to explore and use, that countries won't station nuclear weapons in space, and that they can't occupy or claim certain parts of space as their own. This all may seem a little far-fetched now, but when you consider the steps being taken toward mining asteroids, you can see how property claims in space could come into play.
Life in space is happening. But if we want to move deeper into the dark and possibly colonize planets,
we have ignition. Liftoff.
It's going to take more than rockets and spacesuits. Our best chance at life in space may just be asteroids.
Asteroids are something that worry about threatening the Earth, but in truth, actually, they are the greatest opportunity that we have.
Chris Lewicki is an aerospace engineer who is obsessed with space. He's helped NASA land 2 rovers on Mars. He and his company, Planetary Resources, are confident asteroids hold the passport to the cosmos.
We're focused on a single task, finding resources in asteroids and bringing those resources to a market that's going to start here in low Earth orbit and grow into the solar system.
These are more than just chunks of rock. Many are packed with metals that Lewicki wants to mine for building materials. In fact, many of Earth's most valuable metals can also be found in asteroids. But the real treasure Lewicki's hunting is water.
The discovery of oil and the way that it transformed the 20th century, we see the water and the fuel on asteroids as providing that same transformational capability for the 21st century.
The idea is to build orbiting gas stations that harness the sun's power to split water into liquid oxygen and liquid hydrogen that would then be used for rocket fuel. That way, spaceships wouldn't have to carry all of their fuel with them and could top off at these cosmic filling stations, allowing them to go even deeper into space.
Asteroid mining sounds kind of like a sci-fi fantasy. I mean, how realistic is this?
What's possible is inevitable. Everything that was once sci-fi had to change at some point in time.
So this is a piece of an asteroid, right?
Yes, it is.
Could you theoretically create a spacecraft or 3D print a spacecraft in space if you're able to get your hands on these metals?
Absolutely. These are how we will build the future starships and future colonies and future habitats and space stations. We will use metals from asteroids to do that, and we'll use 3D printing as the technology.
Lewicki and company have already launched a satellite to analyze asteroids, and they're gearing up to deploy another.
We're in our operations and system test facility supporting the construction and test of the Arcad 6 satellite.
So they're actually building your next spacecraft
We're
right now?
building our next spacecraft right on the other side of these windows.
These mines may be up and running sooner than you think.
That's something that is, not 10, 20, 30 years away for us. That's a target that's about 3 to 4 years away.
There are 10 asteroids that Planetary Resources is considering mining. It's a dangerous job, but luckily, the company's robots will be doing the digging.
There are a lot of people who are skeptical that you guys are going to be able to pull this off, that asteroid mining will become a reality.
I think they're right to be skeptical, but it takes those people who do believe that will happen to find out how to make it happen.
Space mining won't be cheap, but some of the world's richest see the potential and have invested in the company. We're programmed to go places we've never been, find refuge on land we've never touched. Could asteroid mining, as impossible as it seems, help us reach the frontier that seems most out of reach?
A pushy pooch yesterday, a hopping hound today. This show is going to the dogs, y'all. The owner of this one says she had a hunch it wasn't just the cats who were scarfing their food. So she set up a camera and left the area, and you can see that the dog is desperate to get in. She seems to try a short running start at one point, then abandons it, but eventually, now you don't see her, now you do. Looks like she had room to spare. Other dogs known to make leaps like that include the Jumpin' Shepherd, the Bounder Collie, the Schipperke, the Papillon, the Lhasa Apso, the St. Bounce Nard, and of course, the Labrador Retriever. Yes, I kid around with you, but what fun we have in these puns. And we beagle you. Join us next week when we're Bark with more CNN 10. Fridays are awesome.
Hey guys, if you want to get active on my channel, if you want to get that latest stuff, if you want to get the latest blog posts, then click or tap the subscribe button right up here. You can also check out my website with the latest posts right down here. And you can view a random video for yourself right over here. Also, I encourage you guys to check out the description down below.